often said when I'm out there giving my speeches or talking to professional audiences, I say, listen, today's truth was yesterday's fringe. So you know what? You want to see where tomorrow's truth is? You might look at what people are calling fringe or conspiracy today. Today, I have with me a dear friend, someone I've known for, David, I think it's been decades plus. From when he was a portfolio manager, he's gone off to do lots of amazing things, but I am thrilled to have with me today David Tice, and he is the president of Paul Revere Films. Current role, right, David? I mean, you got lots of titles, but anyway, David, thanks for joining me.
So glad to be with you, Vikram. And as you said, we're dear friends.
So, David, before the break, we were talking about Soul Surfer and your success with your first movie endeavor. You've stayed involved with movies. You've done some venture investing. You and I have looked at, we've explored starting businesses together. Never really came together in the way we'd hoped, but still lots of fun to look at it. And I really respect your mind. Your mind took you, and your insights and your analytical framework took you to your current project, which I think is super important. I watched the movie. I think it's amazing. I mentioned it and wrote about some of the big themes of the movie in one of my more recent newsletter pieces here about a month ago. But let you talk about the origin story. Let's start there. Why did you decide to get involved with this current project, and tell people about the current project?
Okay, so the genesis actually goes back to me being a geopolitical student for probably 20 years. So being a skeptic, I've been worried about Russia and China, frankly, when people weren't talking about that. And actually, I was able to convene a couple of mini symposiums with 5 or 6 guys, over the years, including 15 years ago. I had the highest ranking spy who ever defected from the Soviet Union, from the GRU. His name's Stanislav Lunev, in my living room. And so he told me about how Russia and China would be working together. Russia and China wanted to bring the West and America to its knees. And therefore, I've been worried about the bad guys out there, even after people saw the end of the Berlin Wall and said that Russia was not a bad guy after all, and China, they just wanted to build their own shopping malls and have their own citizens have great lives. I was always pretty much wary that there was something else going on behind the scenes. And Anatoly Golitsyn had talked about the false split between Russia and China, and that their overall aspirations of the CCP and the Russian leaders was to bring us down. They did not like U.S. hegemony. Anyway, about 4 years ago, I came across a movie project called Black Start, and it was made by a filmmaker in California, and I thought it was 70% complete. And putting a movie together, you have to be a perfectionist. I learned that from Peter Guber, saying that in a film, it's got to be great, 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 great. And therefore, I realized that it was maybe only 40% done. So I threw myself into it. I had some filmmaking background, and I had some spare time, and I was so passionate about my belief, and I was worried about EMP, electromagnetic pulse.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this a lot. I still think that 1 second after book changed my framing of how to think about the risk to the grid than anything else I would have ever. And in fact, it taught me about supply chain vulnerability. It is an awesome book that if listeners haven't read, I would highly recommend. My guess is David would back me up on this, that 1 second after is a book to read. But anyway, David, sorry for cutting you off.
So this fell into my lap, and I said, I found a big-time Emmy Award-winning editor, and then was able to find a consultant that just gave me a few hours a week few hours a month, frankly, to help give me the backdrop. And I converted this film into Grid Down, Power Up. And it's actually won 15 awards. I wanted to convert my movie into a movement. That's why I'm so excited to be on your show, because you have so many great listeners and smart listeners that listen to you, Vikram. So I'm really, really proud to be on this show with you.
So David, tell us about Grid Down, Power Up. I mean, you've got Dennis Quaid. This is an awesome movie. Everyone's got to watch this. But tell us about the basic issue that you're putting a spotlight on for those that don't know.
So the premise, Vikram, is that we have critical civilian infrastructure that we have not protected. If the power grid goes out, we have George Carlin in the movie, and he says we are SOL and JWF'd if the power grid goes out. So this movie talks about the threat that if power grid goes out for an extended period of time, as many as 90% of Americans would die. So this is a massive problem. FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, they found that as few as 9 substations, if they were at key nodes, if they were knocked out, it could knock out the power coast to coast.